My name is Sharon. I'm 58 years old, and I've been a widow for 4 years now. I own a house in a quiet neighborhood in Portland, Oregon. A beautiful 4-bedroom home with a garden I used to tend with my late husband. My son Brian and his wife Kimberly live there now with their daughter Emma. What Kimberly doesn't know is that the house is still mine. I never imagined kindness could be mistaken for weakness. If you've ever given everything to your children only to be pushed aside, you'll understand what happened next. Let me know where you're watching from. And if this story sounds familiar, hit that like button. You won't believe what she did. I was married to Thomas for 28 years. We built our lives together from nothing, working side by side through good times and hard ones. Thomas was a contractor, and I worked as a school administrator. Together, we managed to buy 3 properties over the years. Smart investments, Thomas used to say. The house on Maple Street was our favorite. 4 bedrooms, hardwood floors throughout, and a backyard big enough for barbecues and birthday parties. We raised Brian there. I can still picture him as a little boy, running through that garden, chasing butterflies on summer afternoons. When Thomas died 4 years ago, from a sudden heart attack, everything changed. The house felt too big, too empty. Every corner held a memory that made my chest ache. I couldn't walk past his workshop without breaking down, so I made the decision to move into a smaller apartment across town. Just 2 bedrooms, close to a park where I could take morning walks. It was my way of starting over, of learning how to breathe again, without him. But I kept the Maple Street house. It was still in my name, and I continued paying the property taxes and insurance. I couldn't bring myself to sell it. Too many memories lived in those walls. 3 years ago, Brian married Kimberly. They were living in a cramped 1-bedroom apartment downtown, struggling to make ends meet. Brian worked as an IT engineer, making decent money, but not enough to buy a house in Portland's expensive market. Kimberly worked in marketing for a small firm. Every time we talked, she complained about their situation. The noise from neighbors, the lack of space, how they couldn't afford anything better. I watched my son stress about money, about providing for his family. That's when I made my decision. I called Brian one evening and told him they could move into the Maple Street house. No rent. I would continue covering the taxes and insurance. Just take care of the place, I said. Make it a home for Emma. Brian was overwhelmed with gratitude. He kept thanking me, promising he'd pay me back someday. I told him not to worry about it. Family takes care of family. That's what Thomas would have wanted. Kimberly seemed pleased when Brian told her, though I noticed she never called to thank me herself. Not even a text message. But I brushed it off. Maybe she was just busy with the move, I thought. People show gratitude in different ways. I didn't explicitly tell Kimberly that I owned the house. I assumed Brian would explain everything. After all, it was his mother's house. Why would I need to spell it out, looking back now? That assumption was my first mistake. The first few months were wonderful. Brian, Kimberly, and 6-year-old Emma moved in during late spring. The house came alive again, with voices and laughter. I would visit on weekends, bringing groceries or homemade meals. Emma would run to the door when she saw my car, her little arms wrapping around my waist. "Grandma, come see my new room," she'd squeal, pulling me up the stairs. Those Saturday afternoons felt like healing. I'd help Brian with yard work while Kimberly organized the kitchen. We'd have lunch together in the backyard, Emma chattering about school and friends. For the first time since Thomas died, I felt like I had my family back. I remember one Sunday in July, we planted tomatoes together in the garden. Emma's hands were covered in dirt, her smile bright as sunshine. "This is the best house ever, Grandma," she said. "I'm so happy we live here." My heart felt full. This is what mattered. seeing my granddaughter happy, watching my son finally have the stability he deserved. The house had purpose again. But by the fourth month, something shifted. I stopped by one Thursday afternoon, like I'd done many times before. I didn't call ahead. It had never been necessary. But when Kimberly opened the door, her expression was different. Tight, annoyed. "You should call first," she said, not moving from the doorway. I was taken aback. "Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to see Emma. Is she home? She's doing homework. It's not a good time." The words felt like a slap. I stood there, holding a container of cookies I'd baked that morning. "Of course. I understand. I'll come back another time." "That would be better," Kimberly said, and closed the door. I walked back to my car, feeling confused. Maybe she was having a bad day. Everyone has those. But the feeling stayed with me, a small seed of unease that I couldn't quite shake. That evening, I called Brian. He was on a business trip in Seattle. I mentioned the visit, trying to keep my tone light. He sighed on the other end of the line. "Mom, maybe just text before coming over. Kim likes to have things organized. She's particular about schedules." I told him I understood, that I'd respect their space. They were building their life after all. Young couples needed privacy. I'd be more considerate. But as I hung up, I couldn't ignore the hollow feeling in my chest. When had I become someone who needed permission to visit my own son? Over the next several weeks, I started texting before visiting. The responses were rarely encouraging. "Not today, we have plans. Emma needs to finish her project. Maybe next weekend." Each message felt like a door closing. I'd stare at my phone, reading the words over and over, trying not to feel hurt. They were busy. That's all. Modern families are busy. When Emma's 7th birthday came in October, I asked Brian if I could throw a small party at the house. Just family, maybe a few of her school friends. I'd handle everything, I said. The cake decorations, entertainment. I wanted to do this for my granddaughter. Brian hesitated. "Let me check with Kim." 2 days later, he called back. "Mom, we already planned something with Kim's family. Maybe you could stop by for cake in the evening." I showed up at 6 that night with presents. The party was clearly winding down. Balloons from Kimberly's mother's party store filled the living room. Children I didn't know ran past me. Kimberly barely acknowledged my arrival. "Hi, Sharon," she said, without looking up from cleaning dishes. "Emma's in the backyard." I found my granddaughter playing with her cousins from Kimberly's side. She hugged me quickly before running off again. I sat on the porch steps alone, watching. After 20 minutes, I left. No one noticed. That night, I tried calling Emma's tablet to say goodnight. Kimberly answered instead. "She's getting ready for bed, Sharon. School night. Can I just say goodnight? It'll take 1 minute. She needs to settle down. Maybe tomorrow." The call ended. I sat in my apartment, staring at the wall. This wasn't right. Something was very wrong. But what could I do? Brian kept saying Kimberly just needed structure, that I should be patient. So I tried to be patient. Then came the incident at Starbucks. It was a Tuesday morning in November. I'd gone to grab coffee before my book club meeting. As I waited for my order, I spotted Kimberly at a corner table with 3 women. They were laughing, animated. I hadn't seen her that relaxed in months. I walked over smiling. "Kimberly, hi. What a nice surprise." Her face changed instantly. The warmth disappeared. "Oh, Sharon. Hi." She didn't introduce me to her friends right away. An awkward silence filled the space. Finally, one of the women said, "Is this a friend of yours?" Kimberly shifted in her seat. "This is my mother-in-law." The way she said it. Like an obligation. Like something she had to acknowledge, but didn't want to. One of the women, a redhead with bright lipstick, smiled at me. "Oh, how nice. Do you live nearby?" I live across town, I said. But my son and his family live in that lovely house on Maple Street. The redhead turned to Kimberly. Oh yes, you mentioned that house. It's gorgeous. Kimberly's smile was tight. Yes, our house. We're so lucky to have found it. Our house. The words echoed in my mind. She said it with such ownership, such pride. Like she'd worked for it. Like it was theirs. I felt something crack inside my chest. She didn't know. Or worse, she knew and chose to pretend she didn't. I made an excuse and left quickly. In my car, my hands shook on the steering wheel. I sat there for 15 minutes, trying to process what just happened. Did Brian tell her the truth? Did she know I owned that house, that I was letting them live there out of generosity? Or did she genuinely believe it was theirs? I needed answers. That evening, I called Brian. He was home, finally back from his trips. I asked him directly, "Did you tell Kimberly about the house silence on the other end?" Then a long exhale. "Well, not exactly, Mom." "What does that mean?" "I mean, I didn't tell her you still own it. She thinks we're renting to own or something. I didn't get into specifics." "Brian, why not?" Another pause. "Because she's proud, Mom. She'd feel uncomfortable if she knew we were living in your house for free, like we're charity cases. I was going to tell her when the time was right. When is the right time? I don't know. Soon. Just please don't say anything yet. Let me handle it." I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell him this was wrong, that honesty mattered. But he sounded stressed, exhausted. So I agreed to wait. That decision haunted me for weeks. 2 months passed. November turned into December, then January. I'd only seen Emma twice during that entire time. Brief visits, carefully scheduled, always feeling rushed. One afternoon, Emma called me from Brian's phone. Her little voice broke my heart. "Grandma, why don't you visit anymore?" I swallowed hard, fighting tears. "Oh, sweetie, I've just been busy. But I miss you so much. I miss you too. Can you come over this weekend? I'll try honey. I'll text your mom." But I did text Kimberly. 3 times. No response. The following Saturday, I couldn't take it anymore. I drove to Maple Street without warning. If she wasn't going to respond to my messages, I'd just show up. I needed to see my granddaughter. When I knocked, Kimberly opened the door. Her face immediately hardened. "Sharon, I thought we agreed you'd call first. I texted you 3 times. You didn't respond. I've been busy. You can't just show up like this." I could feel my patience fraying. "Kimberly, I just want to see Emma for a few minutes. It's not a good time." Before I could respond, I heard Emma's voice from inside. "Grandma, Grandma, is that you?" She came running to the door, her face lit up. But Kimberly caught her arm. "Not now, sweetie. Grandma has to go." "But Mom, I haven't seen her in forever." "Emma, go to your room." The look on my granddaughter's face destroyed me. Confusion. Hurt. She looked at me, then at her mother, then slowly walked away. I stood there, frozen. Kimberly stared at me, waiting for me to leave. "This is wrong," I whispered. "I need to go," she said, and closed the door. I drove home in tears. When I got to my apartment, I couldn't stop crying. My best friend Linda, who lived next door, heard me and came over. I told her everything. "Sharon," she said, her voice firm, "you need to do something. This isn't right. That's your house, your family." But Brian asked me not to interfere. "Interfere? You're his mother, and you're being treated like a stranger." I didn't know what to do, so I did nothing. And that might have been my biggest mistake. Thanksgiving came. I waited for an invitation. None came. Finally, I called Brian. "Am I invited to Thanksgiving?" He sounded uncomfortable. "Mom, Kim wants to keep it small this year. Just the three of us. Small Brian. I'm your mother. I know. I'm sorry. She just wants a quiet holiday. I spent Thanksgiving alone. Linda invited me over, but I declined. I couldn't face anyone. I sat in my apartment, looking at old photos of Thomas and young Brian. Photos from Thanksgivings past when we were a family. The loneliness was crushing. That evening, I made the mistake of checking Facebook. Kimberly had posted a photo of their Thanksgiving dinner. The caption read, "Grateful for our beautiful home and family." The photo showed their dining room, my dining room, the one Thomas and I picked out furniture for 20 years ago. The comments poured in. "Your house is gorgeous. You're so blessed. What a beautiful family." Kimberly responded to several. "We worked so hard for this. Worked so hard." I stared at those words until they blurred. She worked so hard for my house, the house I gave them, the house I was still paying taxes on. Linda called me that night. I told her about the post. "That's it," she said. "Sharon, you have to stand up for yourself. This has gone too far." But I didn't. Not yet. I was still trying to be the understanding mother, the patient grandmother, the woman who didn't cause problems. It took one more incident to break me. A week after Thanksgiving, I couldn't stand it anymore. I missed Emma desperately. I texted Kimberly asking to visit. No response. I called Brian straight to voicemail. After 2 days of silence, I made a decision. It was my house. I had every right to check on it, to visit my granddaughter. I wasn't going to be shut out anymore. I drove to Maple Street on a Saturday afternoon. It was just after 3. Brian's car wasn't in the driveway. He must be working overtime again. But Kimberly's SUV was there. I knocked on the front door, waited, knocked again. I could hear the television inside. Someone was home. I knocked a third time, louder. Still nothing. I stood there, keys in my hand. The spare set I'd kept since before they moved in. My house. My property. I had the right. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. "Kimberly," I called out. "Emma, it's Grandma." Footsteps thundered down the hallway. Emma appeared first, her face breaking into pure joy. "Grandma." She crashed into me with a hug. Then, Kimberly emerged from the kitchen. Her face went white, then red. "What are you doing here? How did you get in?" I wanted to see Emma. I knocked several times. "You can't just walk into our house." Her words hung in the air. "Our house." I kept my voice calm. "Kimberly, I just wanted to visit. I've been trying to reach you all week. That doesn't give you the right to break in. This is our home." Emma looked between us, confused and scared. I bent down to her level. "Hi, sweetheart. I've missed you so much." But Kimberly grabbed Emma's hand. "Go to your room, Emma. Now." "But Mom." Now, Emma's eyes filled with tears as she walked away. I straightened up, anger finally pushing through my hurt. "Kimberly, this is ridiculous. I'm her grandmother. You're trespassing. Get out of my house right now, or I'm calling the police." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Your house." She pulled out her phone. "I'm serious, Sharon. Get out. Kimberly, please. Let's talk about this." Her fingers moved across the screen. I heard her voice change higher-pitched, panicked. "Yes, I need help. Someone broke into my house. She has a key, but she doesn't live here. She just walked in. My mother-in-law, but that doesn't matter. She's trespassing." I stood, frozen, watching her make the call. This couldn't be real. She was calling the police. On me, in my own house. Within 15 minutes, 2 police officers arrived. A man in his 40s and a younger woman. They knocked, and Kimberly rushed to let them in. "Thank God you're here," she said, her voice shaking. She broke in. I asked her to leave, but she refused. Officer Johnson, the older one, turned to me. Ma'am, do you live at this address? No. But I own this house. Kimberly's voice shot up. That's not true. This is our house. We've been living here for almost a year. Officer Martinez. The female officer looked between us. Ma'am, she said to me, do you have proof of ownership? Yes. The deed is at my apartment, but I have property tax documents here. In the office. Kimberly started to object, but Officer Johnson raised his hand. Let's all stay calm. Ma'am, where are these documents? In the office. Down that hall, first door on the left. Can you show us? I led them to what used to be Thomas's study, the room Brian now used for his work from home days. I opened the bottom drawer of the desk, the one where I always kept important papers. The property tax bill was right there, dated 2 months ago. Sharon Miller, it read clearly. I handed it to Officer Johnson. He studied it carefully, then showed it to his partner. He turned to Kimberly. Ma'am, this property is registered to Sharon Miller. According to this document, she is the legal owner. Kimberly's face went through several emotions. Shock, confusion, then something close to fear. That's not possible, Brian said. She stopped herself, realizing what she'd just admitted. Said what? Officer Martinez asked gently. Kimberly's voice dropped. I thought this was our house. Officer Johnson looked at me. Ma'am, do you want to press charges for the false police report? I shook my head. No, I just want to go. We'd recommend you folks work this out as a family matter, he said. But for the record, Mrs. Miller has every legal right to enter this property. After the officers left, I stood in the entryway, facing Kimberly. She looked smaller, now deflated. Sharon, I didn't know. I swear I thought you called the police on me in my house. I didn't know it was yours. That's the problem, isn't it? You never asked. You just assumed. I heard small footsteps on the stairs. Emma stood there crying. Grandma, don't go. Please don't leave. I walked over and hugged her tight, breathing in her strawberry shampoo. I love you so much, sweetheart. Then I left. I didn't look back at Kimberly. I couldn't. In my car, I sat gripping the steering wheel. My whole body shook. Not from fear, from rage. Pure, burning rage. Enough was enough. That night, Brian called 17 times. I didn't answer. His text messages filled my phone. Mom, please pick up. Kim told me what happened. Let me explain. I'm so sorry. Please call me back. I turned off my phone and went to bed. But I didn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, Thomas's face in my mind. What would he say? What would he do? By morning, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Brian showed up at my apartment at 8. I heard his knock and knew it was him. When I opened the door, he looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, hair uncombed. Mom, I'm so sorry. Kim had no idea about the house. I never told her. I know you didn't. That's part of the problem. I should have been honest. I was wrong. She called the police on me, Brian. Your wife had me investigated like a criminal. In my own house. I know. It's inexcusable. I stepped aside to let him in. We sat at my small kitchen table, the same table Thomas and I ate breakfast at for years after we downsized. Why didn't you tell her the truth? I asked. He rubbed his face. Because she's proud, Mom. She grew up with nothing. Her family struggled. When I told her we could move into this house, I saw how happy it made her. I didn't want to ruin that by making her feel like we were accepting charity. But it is charity, Brian. And there's nothing wrong with that. Family helps family. I know. I just handled it wrong. Please, Mom, don't do anything rash. We'll fix this. I looked at my son, 32 years old, still trying to please everyone, Still avoiding hard conversations. I already called David Brennan, I said quietly. Thomas's lawyer. Why? Because I needed to know my rights. And I needed advice. Brian's face went pale. Mom, what are you going to do? I'm not sure yet. But I won't be disrespected anymore. Not by anyone. He tried to argue to plead. But I was done listening. After he left, I called David back. The consultation had been clear. As the property owner, I had every right to ask them to vacate with 30 days' notice. Oregon law was firm on this. David drafted the formal letter. All I had to do was sign it. I stared at the document for an hour. Was I really going to kick out my own son? My granddaughter? No. But I was going to make sure they understood this was my house, my choice to let them stay. And that choice came with conditions. I called Brian and told him I wanted a family meeting. Tuesday evening at my apartment. Both of them had to be there. When Tuesday came, they arrived at 7. Kimberly looked nervous. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying. Brian's face was drawn with stress. We sat in my living room. I placed the 30-day notice on the coffee table between us. What's that? Brian asked, though I could tell he knew. Notice to vacate. David drew it up for me. Mom, please. I'm not finished. I slid the paper across. This is what I could do. What I have every legal right to do. Kimberly spoke for the first time. You're kicking us out. I looked at her directly. You called the police on me. What did you expect? Tears spilled down her cheeks. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I thought. You thought you owned a house you never paid for. You thought you could treat me like an intruder in a home I've owned for 26 years. Sharon, please, Brian said. We have nowhere to go. You should have thought about that before. The room fell silent. I let them sit with it. Let them feel what I'd been feeling for months. Uncertainty, fear, powerlessness. Then I spoke again. However, I'm willing to offer an alternative. They both looked up, hope flickering. You can stay, but things change. Starting now. Anything, Brian said immediately. Whatever you want. I pulled out a paper I'd written by hand. My terms. First, Kimberly, you will apologize. Not just to me, but you'll acknowledge publicly what you did. That post on Facebook, the one about your beautiful home, you'll correct it. Kimberly nodded quickly. Second, I will have unrestricted access to visit Emma. No more scheduling. No more asking permission. Within reasonable hours, of course. But I am her grandmother, and I will not be shut out. Of course, Brian said. Absolutely. Third, you will pay rent. $500 a month. Brian looked confused. Mom, you don't need the money. You're right, I don't. But you need to remember, this isn't your house. It's mine, and I'm choosing to let you stay. That's a gift, not a right. Kimberly wiped her eyes. We can do that. Fourth, and this is non-negotiable, if anything like this happens again, if I am disrespected or shut out, in any way you're out. Immediately. No second chances. I understand, Kimberly whispered. I looked at them both. I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm doing this because I matter too. My feelings matter. My relationship with my granddaughter matters. And I won't be invisible anymore. Brian reached across and took my hand. You were never invisible, Mom. I'm so sorry we made you feel that way. Then prove it. Starting now. They both agreed to everything. Kimberly's apology came that night, posted on Facebook for everyone to see. She wrote about how grateful she was that I allowed them to live in my house, how she'd made mistakes, and how blessed they were to have family who cared. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't entirely heartfelt, but it was a start. The first week was tense. Kimberly could barely look at me when I came to visit Emma. She was polite, offering tea and making small talk, but the warmth wasn't there. I didn't expect it to be. Trust takes time to rebuild. Emma, however, was thrilled to have me back. I picked her up from school every Wednesday, took her for ice cream or to the park. We'd spend hours together just talking. She told me about her friends, her favorite books, the boy in her class who always pulled her hair. These moments healed something in me. They reminded me why I'd made the choices I made. Family wasn't just about blood. It was about showing up, being present, not letting anyone make you disappear. By the third week, Kimberly started opening up. We were in the kitchen one evening while Emma did homework upstairs. Brian was still at work. Kimberly poured us both coffee and sat down across from me. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Of course. Why didn't you just sell the house after Thomas died?" I took a sip of coffee thinking. Because it wasn't just a house. It was 26 years of memories. It was where I raised Brian, where Thomas and I built our life. I couldn't let it go to strangers. So you gave it to Brian. I gave him the chance to build his own memories there, with his family. She looked down at her cup. I grew up in a trailer, Sharon. My parents never owned anything. We moved constantly, always behind on rent. When Brian told me we could live in this beautiful house, I wanted so badly to believe it was ours, that we'd finally made it. I understand that feeling. But I should have asked questions. I should have been grateful instead of entitled. You should have been honest with me, both of you. She nodded. I was so afraid you'd look down on me. Brian's mom, the successful school administrator, the woman who owned multiple properties, and here I was, the girl from the trailer park who couldn't afford a house. I never looked down on you, Kimberly. I wanted to help, but help requires respect from both sides. I know that now. It was the most honest conversation we'd ever had. And while it didn't erase what happened, it was a foundation, something we could build on. Over the following months, our relationship slowly improved. Kimberly started including me in family dinners. She'd text me photos of Emma throughout the week. Small gestures, but they mattered. Brian became more present too. He made sure I was invited to everything. School concerts, weekend, barbecues, movie nights. He was trying to repair what he'd let break. I kept ownership of the house. I didn't transfer. The deed didn't change anything legally. And I don't regret that decision. Because this was never about the property. It was about recognition, about not letting love turn into erasure. I still pay the taxes and insurance. They pay their $500 each month. It's symbolic more than anything. But that symbol matters. It keeps us all honest. Emma is 8 now. She's smart, funny, and growing up fast. I see her 3 times a week. We have our Wednesday ice cream dates, Saturday morning cartoons at my apartment, and dinner at the house every other Sunday. Those moments with her are worth everything. Looking back now, 6 months after that horrible day with the police, I can see how close I came to losing myself. I almost let my love for my son and my desire to be helpful turn me into something invisible. Someone whose feelings didn't matter. Someone who could be pushed aside. But I learned something important. Love without boundaries isn't love. It's self-destruction. Being a mother doesn't mean sacrificing your dignity. It doesn't mean accepting disrespect or cruelty. It means teaching your children, through your actions, what real love looks like. And real love includes respect. Always. I don't hate Kimberly. I don't even blame her entirely. She was operating on false information, living in a lie that Brian created. But her response when confronted, calling the police, trying to have me removed from my own property, that showed something about her character. Something she needed to face and change. And she has changed. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough that I can see she's trying. She's learning that pride doesn't have to mean isolation, that accepting help isn't weakness. Brian learned too. He learned that avoiding difficult conversations doesn't protect anyone. It just creates bigger problems down the road. He's more direct now, more honest. He checks in with me regularly, makes sure I feel included. Our relationship will never be exactly what it was before Thomas died. We can't go back to those Sunday dinners where everything felt easy and natural. Too much has happened. Too many wounds, even if they're healing. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we're building something more real now. Something based on honesty instead of assumptions. On mutual respect instead of unspoken expectations. I've changed too. I've learned to stand up for myself. To recognize when kindness is being mistaken for weakness. To understand that setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish or cruel. It makes you whole. If Thomas were here, I think he'd be proud. Not proud of the conflict or the pain, but proud that I found my voice, that I refused to disappear. He always said I was stronger than I gave myself credit for. I wish it hadn't taken losing him and nearly losing my family to believe it. These days, I spend less time worrying about what everyone else needs and more time thinking about what I need. I take painting classes with Linda. We took a trip to Seattle in April, just us girls having adventures. I'm reading more, walking, more living more. Emma asks me sometimes about that day the police came. She doesn't understand all of it, but she remembers the tension. "Grandma," she said once, "why was Mom so mad at you?" I told her the truth, in a way she could understand. Sometimes people make mistakes, honey. Your mom made a mistake, but we're fixing it together. Will you always come see me? She asked, her eyes worried. Always, I promised. Nothing will keep me away, and I meant it. Because if I learned anything from this experience, it's that showing up matters. Being present matters. Fighting for the people you love matters, even when it means fighting against them. I hope Emma remembers this lesson as she grows up, that she learns to stand up for herself, that she understands love isn't about making yourself small so others can feel big. It's about making space for everyone to be their full selves. The house on Maple Street is still mine. I've thought about what I'll do with it eventually. Part of me wants to leave it to Emma directly, bypassing Brian and Kimberly altogether. Let her have it when she's old enough to appreciate what it represents. Not just a house, but a legacy. A reminder that women can own things, can stand firm, can refuse to be erased. But I haven't decided yet. That's a choice for another day. For now, I'm content with how things are. The boundaries are clear, the respect is present, and I get to watch my granddaughter grow up, which is all I ever really wanted. I still miss Thomas every single day. I miss his laugh, his steadiness, his way of knowing exactly what to say. But I carry him with me now in a different way, in the strength I found, in the choices I made, in the refusal to be diminished. He taught me that I mattered, and when I forgot, when everyone around me forgot, I had to teach myself that lesson again. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, harder than losing him, harder than starting over, because it meant risking the relationships I had left. But it was worth it, because now, when I look in the mirror, I recognize the woman staring back. She's not perfect. She's made mistakes. But she's whole. She's visible. She matters. And that's everything. So if you're out there listening to this, and you've ever felt invisible in your own life pushed aside by people who should cherish you, I want you to know something. You're allowed to stand up. You're allowed to set boundaries. You're allowed to demand respect, even from family, especially from family. It doesn't make you selfish. It doesn't make you cruel. It makes you human. It makes you worthy. It makes you someone who understands that love without respect is just control wearing a prettier name. I learned that lesson at 58 years old. But it's never too late to learn it. Never too late to reclaim your space in the world. Never too late to remind people that you're here, you matter, and you won't be erased. Not by anyone. Not ever again. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? Have you ever felt invisible in relationships that should have made you feel seen? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Share this with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes we all need a reminder that we're allowed to take up space. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it brought you some comfort, some strength, or just the reminder that you're not alone. May you always know your worth, and may you never let anyone convince you otherwise. Take care of yourselves out there.